Hey, what's up, fam? This episode for Radiant was extremely different than the ones prior, where it was taking part of the manga and just altering it in a way to do its own. This was completely original, so this particular episode was a complete mystery to me when it came to the events of it. But at the same time, even though it was in the now manga canon versus the now anime canon, since they've decided to do two different versions, even though this would feel like filler if it was, following the manga, it is canon to what they're doing for the anime, and that's fine. It was an alright episode. I enjoyed some of the stuff they did, and it actually had a good expansion on Doc's character. I won't get into spoilers because I still think when it comes to the first like big arc, they're gonna follow a lot about the manga, or at least the specific events and tones. Like I said, I won't give spoilers, but it's nice that Doc actually gets to have character instead of just like him standing in the background and occasionally making a joke. I don't get why he hangs out with Seth and uh, Melly after this episode because they put him in such worse situations compared to the manga. In the manga, it's like occasionally they get in a bad spot, but this in the anime, it's like every single day he wakes up, he goes outside, and these two completely screw him over in some way. But the episode itself was kind of funny. He ends up getting kidnapped by a Kraken, and they're like, "Oh no, they might eat him. Like this Kraken might eat Doc when you do something." And the Kraken, I guess, has a deep love of coffee, so they're like, "All right, we'll try and like trap him with coffee." And things just kept going like kind of just taking bad turns. Like we're getting smacked around by this Kraken. And at one point, I thought it was hilarious because they had like this trap with a big thing of coffee and they put bear traps on it. So the Kraken goes and like while holding Doc kind of like smacks him into all the bear traps to get rid of him, and so he's just covered in bear traps, which is which is pretty funny in a way of just this dude getting screwed over. There are also a lot of good aspects to just Seth's character in this, not even like kind of building off personality wise, but just whenever he tried to use his Titan punch, it's not really working, and you saw it kind of in the first episode where he was using it, and the Nemesis was way too kind of, I want to say, spongy, and it was absorbing the impact. Its form kind of just would take the force and just rebound it, and it was just like way too kind of, I'm just gonna go with spongy. And the same thing kind of this Kraken, even though he'd punch it, just like that like a force absorption just kind of made it almost almost moot. And you see that combined with the events of the chapter of Seth not really actually being able to beat this Kraken, that he needs to both get stronger and vent new techniques, which I thought was a pretty good small development on his character, which was nice. But also Doc, once they start actually like, all right, we're fighting this Kraken, we're getting him out this time. I guess like throughout however long they were together, Doc and the Kraken became friends based off of their shared love of coffee, and now he's got a buddy. And I'm hoping that this is a reoccurring character. He's got some form of some form of companion that will come in handy at some point through this Kraken, and I like that about it. I thought that part was a pretty interesting way to add on to his character and onto the city. If I guess the sewer creature, is now Doc's ally. So if anything kind of goes down, like I don't know, some magic gang that's or in the city. Well, I guess not. Well, yeah, they call it magic and spells. It's just a Fantasia. Almost I was almost kind of correct myself in a weird way there, but maybe if something happens and it's like, oh man, how's he gonna get out of this one? Seth and Melly out there, they're gonna have this Kraken shove. The only thing apparently that seemed to work in him is the is Melba's messed up coffee recipes that are super gross apparently, and just all around unappealing to anybody. It just made him sick. You also got some really nice spell pieces from Melly. I guess she did some like gravity change. I thought the gravity chain spell, I don't know, had some weird name, was pretty cool looking. It was nicely animated, and I think they had something in there about her catching a nemesis before, but I think that's like a big thing changed from the manga. 'Cause I remember like people don't really catch nemesis alive. I'd have to reread the first few volumes to get that 100% on point. Don't take my word for it. Like I said, and I usually say that my translations are either really rough or I might forget small aspects that end up kind of like being bigger later. Just stuff like that, because it's not a series I've read through a whole bunch, even though I enjoy it. Still, a lot of it's still pretty fresh. The only other thing you really get is Doc when he finally drinks some coffee, really likes it. I guess it turns out it was made by Melly's dad, so he doesn't get that delight of her making him coffee herself, because obviously he has a thing for her. So you can see him a little bit crushed and defeated in this episode. But that was mostly it for it. It had some nice character development, a little bit of nice world building with this addition of a Kraken, which I thought was pretty cool. And for the most part, Artemis kind of looking like a little bit more interesting, maybe, and maybe the Kraken will show up in a later date with more relevancy and having a use. Maybe Doc will become some form of squid spellcaster. I don't know. And that's it for this episode. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I like the development and expansion. I thought that was good, and the animation is pretty solid throughout the whole thing. But otherwise, tell me if you liked the episode, if you're liking Radiant. Are you interested? Have you been following the manga at all? And maybe thumbs up, like the video. Like I said, I'd like to hear some comments. And subscribe if you haven't. Mostly manga stuff, anime stuff. But otherwise, everyone's already subscribed. Thank you. I appreciate everyone for listening. Bye.